الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل. It's a little bit cold night and I know it's hard for you to do salawat, but inshallah when you do a loud salawat it will warm you up. So صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Barakallah bikum. Now, speaking about salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, you may know this, that it's this salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, where does it come from? Can I ask the young guys? Yes, Ammu, do you know where this salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad comes from? Where do we come? Is this in the hadith or the Quran? Have a guess. Quran? Ahsan, mashallah. Very smart. Okay, so what does the ayah say in the Quran? Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Subhanallah, ahsanta, mubarakallah bik. So this ayah in the Quran, some people think that this might be in the hadith. Well, there are lots of hadiths that the Prophet himself says, when it comes to the salat on me, don't do the short salah or the shorter salah, which means he calls it a salat al-batra. Al-abtar is when you have something and you cut it. They call it abtar. Okay, you cut something short. He said, when you do the salah, complete the salah on me. They say, how do we do this, Ya Rasulullah? He said, don't say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad and you stop. No, continue it. You say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Again, in the Quran, Allah says, He doesn't just say Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He doesn't say that. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. He did, but before this, he gave an introduction. What did he say? He said, Inna Allah, Allah himself, wa malaikatahu, and his angels, all of them, yusalluna ala nabi. All of these angels and Allah on top of them, they do salat on the Prophet. So, what your duty now? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, all you who believe, sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, what does as-salah mean? When we say as-salah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, what does that mean? This means that we are asking Allah to raise the rank of Ahlul Bayt, of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, to raise the rank. Okay, that's what it means. So inshallah, after this introduction, we start with the blessings of this majlis tonight, inshallah. Okay, so we continue our talk from the previous nights. We started this ayah, this theme throughout this night is this ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 217. Okay, وَلَا يَزَالُونَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ حَتَّى يَرُدُّوكُمْ عَنْ دِينِكُمْ إِنِ اسْتَطَاعُوا. They will never stop fighting you until they what? They will make sure they will renounce, they make you turn away from your religion. They will make you renounce your religion, renounce your faith, step away from your faith. That's what they want. Or at least they want you to be weakened in your faith. You have doubts in your heart and you're not a strong believer. You don't have a strong faith in your religion. That's their goal. If they can do that, they have reached their goal. Because their goal sometimes, you cannot change person from like 180 degrees, from being a Muslim, worshipping Allah and following Ahlul Bayt and all that, and you make him turn all the way backwards and he will not worship Allah and he will worship idols or la samahallah. It's very difficult. But what they can do, if they can change our mentality somehow, they make us not so strong, not very, what's the word? Not very, like, although this word has a bad connotation now, but it's good in its original meaning. not very fundamental in our belief, okay? Conservative in our belief. We should be fundamental in our belief. But now the word fundamentals, they made it sound bad. You see, that's one of the ways that they fight all these believers. Okay? So that's what their goal. That's what they're working. All these people, satanic organizations, I call them. Okay, including the Western materialistic civilization. All these organizations, they try very hard to work to make us denounce our beliefs. All right, and we talked last night about what happened last year, similar to just before Muharram, when they in that European country, Sweden, when they allowed that person to burn the Quran, okay, and desecrate the Quran. And this has insulted millions and millions of people around the world. But they didn't care. They say this is a freedom of expression. Under that banner, they allowed him to do that. And they protected him. Okay? So one of the ways that they do is they attempt all the time to have disregard to our sanctities. We have the Quran is our sanctity. They have disregard. They don't care about us, what we believe. And they always give a protection to those people or individuals, I will call them, or organizations, to insult our beliefs. Okay? They want to provoke us. Because once we get provoked, obviously, there are some people who get really emotional and start doing some things. It's a reaction, and they will say, look, see, that's what the Muslims are. They're barbaric people. They cannot allow others to talk about their religion. Okay? They don't have a freedom of expression. But we, Western governments, Western civilization, we are modernized. We are better than these barbaric Muslims, okay? They don't know nothing. They just live in the desert, live in the mountains. That's the image that they portray. So, very smart, but evil smart. Now, we can, inshallah, outsmart them by sticking to our belief and push back, be resistant, and be strong in our belief. Now, to do that, we have to understand what their ideas and what their scheme, what their project is, and work around it. Okay, so they have so many attempts to transform Muslim identity. They used so many things, and one of them is the biased media. There's a lot of media, but it's biased. It's against Islam, against Muslims, against Arabs, against Afghan, against Iran, yeah, against the resistance, axis of resistance, against Palestine, against Yemen, against South Lebanon. That's what they do. Always negative images that they portray. And they say Israel is the only democratic state in the Middle East. All the rest of it, they are barbaric people. They just want to eliminate Israel. That's what they do. Okay? Now, this, I just want to give you an example of the biased media that they use. Last year, when they had this, they allowed this person to burn the Quran. I'm looking at I can show you this, but inshallah, and I wish if I could have in the future, if you have like a slideshow, we can show this. But if you want a copy of this presentation, I can give it to you if you just talk to me, inshallah. I will give you a copy of that, or you can email me. The email is abic.sydney, abic.sydney@gmail.com. So, I'm just reading this headline from BBC last year. Sweden's Quran burning put freedom of expression law to test. You see how they frame it? Yeah? The freedom of expression law, they put it to real test now. Our freedom, our values of freedom. Okay? That's how they portray this. Okay? So they have lack of regard to Muslim culture, and they favor always the minorities. You watch that and you see. Always they favor the minorities on the expense of the majority, which is totally wrong. Totally wrong. Another one, okay? I don't know if you can see this. This is about, do you know which lady is this? The hijabi one in the parliament recently? Huh? Fatima, yeah? Well done. She is from Afghanistan, originally. Fatima Payman. She's from Western Australia, MP. What happened to her? A few weeks ago, what happened? Yeah? She was bullied. She was bullied so hard just because she stood by her conscience. Just, it's a human thing. All these people are getting, massacred every day. It's over 40,000 people now. Many of them are, not less than half, are children and women, pregnant women, old people. Is this right to do this? Everybody is calling this is a genocide. Even the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Law have issued strong statements and even arrest warrants for Netanyahu. But nobody cares. Where is the international community? No one cares. Now, you look at the United Nations resolution. They issued resolutions to what? To stop the fighting. Stop the fighting. Stop bombing civilians. Allow the medical aids. Allow the food to go in. Israel didn't care. Is there anybody to force Israel to do that? No. Nobody can. The international community just watching. They can't. Helpless. The Arabs, surrounded by Muslims, they just watch and do nothing. And America, they play game, different roles. Oh no, you have to stop. And they say, no, and just game between Biden and between Netanyahu. You must stop this and nothing. They continue to support them with arms to kill more civilians. Just last night, they killed 100 people. Eight very sophisticated missiles went with like laser guided. They went onto tents. They told this is a safe zone, and they told these families to go there. Civilians, just in a tent, and they struck them with 8 missiles, very explosive, highly explosive missiles, and they killed 100 people. Even when the ambulances came to save them, they bombed the ambulances as well. Is this going to change anything? No. Where is the freedom of expression? When Fatima Payman, Jazakallah khair, she stood up against them, and there was a bill in the parliament to recognize the Palestinian state. Okay? They have the right to their sovereignty, to have sovereignty on their own land. She stood with them. She crossed the floor to vote with it. And the Labour policy was before is to have this recognition of two-state solution. Now, I asked you a question, she said, how can you have two-state solution, Israel and Palestine living side by side, if you don't recognize the Palestinian state? This bill is to recognize the Palestinian state. The Labour went against it. Just because the caucus said this and I have to go with you against my principles, my religion, my humanity, she says, no, I'm not willing to do that. And she's brave. She stood up. They bullied her. They put a lot of pressure on her throughout the media, through their meetings, the way they look at her. Listen to the interviews with Fatima Payman. And she was a lady, hijabi one, by herself. And she was so brave. She didn't give up. She was resistance, correct? She is very brave. And she stood up to them, and she said, questioning, there was another one from the Financial Review. They say, Fatima Payman goes from rising star to a Labour rat, they call her. Another one in the ABC News, they say, Fatima Payman decision expected as caucus colleagues expressed concerns over what? Over claims that she was being guided by God. See? They're concerned. They say, as if they use this as a way to mock her. That's a mockery to them. You claim person, educated, qualified, you're skilled, you are in a parliament, you've been voted for, you live in a democratic country, you are you are living in a civilized nation, yeah? You've been living in Australia most of your life. You are modernized now, in a modernized technology country, and now you're in a parliament and you claim that you've been guided by God? What is this? That's how they frame it. Can you see? So that's a fight. That's a continuous fight or a war against religion altogether. They reject this. But in fact, in the parliament, when they elect these MPs, they get sworn into parliament. They have to swear an oath by God. They say, I will serve my nation. I will never deceive them. So it's just hypocrisy. total hypocrisy. Okay? And it's uncovered their veil, uncovered their real face. So, it continues. Human rights and freedom of expression. Let me just read this from this guy. He was interviewing Emmanuel Macron. He was the French, the president, back in 2020. And he says, Macron, this is after the cartoonish, if you remember a few years ago, 5 or 4 years ago, there was a cartoon about the Prophet Muhammad. Do you remember that? It was on all over the news. Also, really upset Muslim. So much. There's a lot of protests throughout the world. So many people died. So many people died just from the protest. Okay? And then it's just there were people so furious because one guy wanted to do that. He had it in mind, and he was paid to do that job because they wanted to steer. They wanted to push these Muslim buttons, and they say, look at the Muslims, how they do. That's what they want. And he says, Emmanuel Macron says on the Prophet Muhammad cartoons, he said, it is not my role to limit freedom of speech. As if the people, you see, that's their mentality. They give a freedom of speech or freedom of expression to individual, but they don't give freedom of expression to the majority. But let's say you look after the minority, right? Okay. What about us Muslims living in Australia, let's say? Forget about the West. Living in Australia. Or living in the whole West. We are all minorities. We are not majority. Why don't you give us our rights? Why don't you give us our rights? We have so much rights to govern ourselves, like we have our own people to represent us, and Fatima Payman was one of them. Why don't you give her the chance to express her? No. That's what they want. They have ideology, they want to push it forward. Another one that happened before that, a few years before that, where also a burn Quran day from America. There was one pastor, okay? He was like a church, a Christian minister. He wanted to burn the Quran. If you remember his face of evil, this guy. If you remember him, an old guy, yeah. And he received very good news coverage and media and protection. And they made a big thing out of it. And they keep twisting facts. Now, there is one where they say how the West weaponized women's rights to demonize Ibrahim Raisi, Allah rahmah. Ibrahim Raisi, the Iranian president. They twist these facts about Iran being suppressing women's rights. And they force them to wear the hijab. And any one of you who've been recently to Iran, nobody forced anybody. Now, there's a lot of ladies there. I've seen them myself. They put the hijab like this, like me. Is this hijab, Islamic hijab? Or they put it like that, and then, half the head showing. It's just nobody forcing anybody. They can, but it's just the media make it so bad, okay? And then they know it's the law. They can't go into any mosque or any government organization or department without wearing the hijab. So they wear the hijab when they go in. Who cares? It's up to you. It's your choice. Okay? So, like I said, they play with the facts and they have this war. Now, another one. Remember when the war started on the 7th of October? When the Palestinians crossed the border of Gaza and attacked the Israeli? What they say infants, remember this big lie? Infants among those beheaded by Hamas attackers in Israel. Do you remember this? I need some notes, guys, honestly. Do you understand English? Yeah? Okay, that's good. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It will be helpful just to... Okay. So, they made this, even Joe Biden himself, he said, babies being beheaded. I've seen videos of babies being beheaded. And no evidence was shown, ever, until this day. And even their media, after their investigation, says there was no evidence, and most likely that didn't happen. Just lies. Because they want to build up these people to support them to fight. And Did Hamas behead babies? Check facts. And when you check it, it wasn't there. Anyway, so just to give you an example, fighting, always fight you with so many things, not just with force and killing us physically, also by infiltrating through our heads and changing our ideologies, putting a lot of pressure on us. Even people, I've seen some people where they cannot even, they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel comfortable praying at work or in school. Why? Because they make them feel very uncomfortable to practice their religion, to practice their faith. Okay? They should be, actually, wherever I go, whatever I studied at TAFE, university, I always ask them, you should have a prayer room, or even the airports, I should have a prayer room for the Muslims. You say you care for the minorities. Okay, we are a minority, and I give them the stats. So many thousands of people here, hundreds of thousands of Muslims. And especially in that area, for example, particular area that you have a school, you should allow for this. Yeah, a lot of promises, but empty. Maybe sometimes they do, some here and there, but on a major scale, no, they don't. So it's our responsibility to get together and to push forward for what we believe that we need. It's our right. You are a majority in a school and you don't have a prayer room, you get together, and that's the thing. You have to be united. Get together, all Muslims, doesn't matter which sect, get together, go and write a letter signed by all students, send it to your principal. They must act. Okay? Give them some time. They must provide for you a room to pray, to practice your faith. If it's not high school, TAFE, university, work, even if you work, they should allow you. It's your right. Don't be ashamed and don't feel afraid, okay? You have a right. If anybody else have rights, similar to they give rights to the people who believe in satanic things. So why don't you have a right? And you believe in God. Another one thing, they use deception, okay? Now, we're getting back into the inner circle of Muslims. Within Muslims, they send us, I'm not sure if you get this, WhatsApp messages or maybe on social media, and they put up posters, and they say, at the beginning of Muharram, the first day of Muharram, they say, Happy Hijri Day. Have you heard this before? The new Muharram. I've got this, they send me all of these things all the time, and I get it. And I just take screenshots just to show you. They send you, كل عام وأنتم بخير. Happy New Year, Happy New Hijri year, because they say this is the new Hijri year, the first day that the Prophet was saved from Mecca to Medina. Okay? And they say we should celebrate this occasion. See? But you tell them this is Ashura, this is Muharram. They say, look, Ashura is on the 10th, this is on the 1st. Right? But then if we follow the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, as soon as the Hilal comes of Muharram, they pack away everything and they put the sawad, all the black things, and then they call upon, people will come to them, they visit them, and they will pay tributes to the Imam Hussein, to the tragedy of Imam Hussein. And started doing يعقدون المجالس, they do majalis similar to this. And they put the black cloth and they separate the ladies and they get people poetries to recite poetries, and they cry from first day of Muharram. And they say they will never be seen like smiley or happy during Ashura, during the days of Muharram, until Muharram passes. Yeah? So this is our traditions. But even the Prophet, there's so many narrations that he gave Salama a piece of turba from Karbala, and he said this will turn into a color of the blood on the day of Ashura. When this happens, اعلمي إن ولدي الحسين قد قتل. When this happens, then come to know that this the day when my grandson Hussein will be slaughtered in Karbala. So we have so many narrations, and even in the Quran, Allah says, there's a nice story behind this, where Al-Ansar, the people who lived in Medina, when they saw the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his progeny came to them, and he migrated and he went through so many difficulties, and when he arrived he had no money, and he was working really hard for them day and night, trying to guide them to the right path. So he worked really hard to save them. So they, as a way of appreciation, okay, as a way of to say thank you to the Prophet, they collected amongst themselves some money, okay, from whatever they had, and they came to the Prophet and they said, Ya Rasulullah, we would like to say thank you so much for everything that you have done for us, and here's a little money, a little gift for you. Just accept this simple gift, humble gift from us for the sake of God. The Prophet said, look, take that money, I don't need it, and I can distribute it among the poor people, but I only need one thing from you. Allah made him say that. He said, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. Have you heard this ayah before? Yeah? I'm sure you have. Allah says, say to them, O Prophet, I don't ask you anything, any recompense for my work, okay? Except for one thing. Al-mawaddah, have some love and affection for my qurba, for my Ahl al-Bayt, qarabati, my relatives, Ahl al-Bayt. Okay, that's all I ask you for. So this is the love, and you to do mawaddah for Ahl al-Bayt. What is the most thing that you can demonstrate mawaddah for someone? I ask you a question. If you love somebody, how would you demonstrate your love to him? How? Two things. Very simple. Two things. When they are happy, you feel happy. You celebrate their happy occasions. And when they're sad, you feel sad for them. Yeah? For example, for our Imams of Ahl al-Bayt, during Mawalid, the birthdays of our Imams, or the happy occasions, we celebrate. For example, the birthday of Imam Ali, or the birthday of Imam al-Hassan, or Bay'at al-Ghadir, or all of these occasions, happy occasions, we celebrate. We feel happy. And then when there is a sad occasion like Ashura, yeah, we have to commemorate this and feel sad and cry and remember these sacrifices. But when you do the opposite, you're not practicing mawaddah to the Prophet. You are going against the Quran. Okay? So it goes even further. On the day of Ashura, in Iraq, La'natullah ala Saddam, if you have heard of the name Saddam Hussein, his name Saddam Hussein, he is a tyrant, dictator. He killed so many people. He actually killed my father too. Because my father was opposition in electrical chair. They killed him and confiscated our house. I'm just one of millions. But in Iraq, he used to, Al-La'in, may Allah curse him, on the day of Ashura, he used to organize massive gatherings for marriage. And he says, whoever wants to marry on the day, he doesn't call it Ashura, he call it another day, like in a different Arabic calendar. He said, whoever wants to marry on that day, okay, it's for free. The government will pay for his marriage. And you have all these people coming, and some of them, unfortunately, even Shia, poor Shia, they say, look, we don't have money, this is a good opportunity, we just go and marry. And Imam Hussein wouldn't mind, because he would be happy for us. So can you see how they, how they go into within us and they try to destroy our belief from within the Shia, from within the Muslim. Yeah. So we have to be careful of these things. And they bring so many narrations. What they say, this is the day that the Prophet Nuh was saved. This is the day that Prophet Musa was saved. This is the day that Prophet, I don't know, like millions, like they bring you all these different narrations. And to be honest, all of these narrations are big lies. It doesn't happen. All these narrations, very weak in their chain of narration, and it's a way of steering people, deviating people away from this event of Ashura. Yeah? And this is started from Bani Umayyah. That's what they wanted, because they've done very big tragedy. They want people not to think about it. They want to steer them away from, let's make it happy. And even here, until this day, like last year in Auburn, there was one of these major mosques. Okay, we don't want to mention names. They sent this brochure family fun day on Ashura, and they call it the day of Ashura. Come and celebrate with your, families and children. They have rides for the kids and cakes and everything. Really? On the day of Ashura? Some of our brothers actually, we rang them. We rang them and said, what's going on? What are you doing? This is the day of Ashura, of Huzn, day of sadness. They said, no, sorry, we thought it's going to be the next day, you just called it the day of Ashura. So this is, just to give you an example, that's one of the way they fight us. Okay, they fight us inside us through Muslims and from outside. At least when they come from outside, we know them. That's the enemy of Islam. But within Islam, it's a little bit difficult. Yeah, when they come from our Sunni brothers, they try to manipulate this. And what's even more dangerous, and I need your attention. I really need your attention, and I don't want you to misunderstand me. This is very sensitive topic. Sometimes even within the Shia Muslims, unfortunately, they deceive Shia Muslims. Okay? They say that let's just stick to the Quran and leave the hadith. The hadith, maybe they are authentic or unauthentic, or maybe we don't know the chain of narrations, we have to study them, we don't know. But the Quran is, at least the Quran is the book of God. Yeah? So they say, let's hang on to the book of God and we just read the Quran, whatever the Quran says. We just leave the hadith. And that's very dangerous. Because the Quran by itself, Imam Ali calls it Hammalun dhu wujuh. You can interpret it many different ways. It has so many layers. But to understand it, to have the right understanding, you need somebody to teach you. You need a teacher. If you go to school, is that enough just to give you books? Imagine you go to school, just books, no teacher. Will you ever learn? No. You need to practice. You need somebody role model. You need to ask him questions and be able to answer you. So it's really difficult. And you cannot just rely on the Quran. And this is very dangerous. This maqula, maqula to Umar. Umar, when the Prophet was so ill, just 5 days before his death, Raziyat Yawm al-Khamis, okay, on the day of Thursday, and the Prophet died on the following Monday. He had some visitors from a Sahaba, his companions came to visit him at home, and he was very ill, and they tell him, and he said to them, let me write for you a book that you will never go astray. Okay? Now this hint that you will never go astray, you will never go misguided, is hinting towards something, because the Prophet many times he said, Inni tarikum fikum al-thaqalain. I'm leaving with you two weighty things, Kitab Allah wa itrati ahla bayti. Both. فإنهما لن يفترقا. They will never separate. حتى يرد علي الحوض. Until they meet me on the pond on the day of judgment. Both of them. Why? Because you need the Quran and you need somebody to explain the Quran for you. It will tell you that's not what it means, that's what it means. Yeah? So you need somebody there to teach you as a role model, to ask him questions, and that's what we need. And then this is very important to have both. So when he said, I will write for you a book that you will never go astray, if you hold on both on them, you will never go astray, you will never be misguided. That's why Umar knew this, and his companion. They say, Hasbuna Kitab Allah. The book of Allah is sufficient for us. We don't need the Prophet to write for us anything to be guided. It's enough. The Quran is enough. This is dangerous. And the Prophet was so upset, and he told them to leave. He told them to leave, because otherwise, even if he write it, they will never listen to him. Okay? So he told them to leave. Why? Because this is very dangerous. He knew where this was heading. So we need to hang on to both. Now, you got on the extreme, the other people, from Shia as well, I'm talking about Shia now, very close circle. From a Shia, they say, look, leave the Quran, let's hang on to the Hadith. Can you see? They go to the other side of the extreme. They so much put a lot of emphasis on the Hadith that they end up leaving the Quran. And you ask them, why? They say, look, the Quran might not be the exact same Quran that was revealed on the Prophet Muhammad. They say, how did you know this? They say, look, maybe there's a lot of hadith. There's a lot of hadith that tells us this. And we have Mus'haf Fatima, they say. And Mus'haf Fatima, I'm just going into so many topics. I don't know if I can give them justice, but they say you have Mus'haf Fatima. Mus'haf Fatima, they say, this is wrong, this is not what we believe, okay? They say Mus'haf Fatima is different from the Quran that we have today. But that's wrong. That's incorrect. This is not what Mus'haf Fatima is. Mus'haf Fatima, there is nothing from the Quran, according to the hadith, in Mus'haf Fatima. The Mus'haf Fatima that the Prophet, Imla al-Prophet, the Prophet was actually dictating to the Imam Ali, and Imam Ali was writing all of these different rules about this jurisprudence rules, fiqh, ahkam al-fiqh, and tafsir of the Quran, but it has nothing about the Quran. And they say when the Prophet, when the Imam al-Mahdi ajjalullah ta'ala farajah, they say when the Imam reappears, he will bring that correct book, the correct order. And they might tell, look, it's the Quran is the same, but it's the order is different. They try, look, they say, please, I'm telling you guys, please, my dear brothers and sisters, don't listen to these people. They try to deceive you. They are fighting you, okay? Either they are deceived themselves and they don't know what they're doing, or they are ignorant, or no, they've been paid for a job, to do a job, to deceive you. They want to deceive us, Shia Muslims. Please don't allow them to do that. Be strong believer. Have strong faith, okay? Have a lot of knowledge. That's why when you have knowledge, you can defend your belief. And you can knock this back. And you can tell them, no, I don't believe in this. This is not what the Quran says. We have to hang on to both. And this hadith at-Thaqalain is narrated in both Sunni and Shia books. And it's a correct hadith. Now, there's a lot of things that we could talk about, but inshallah, we're ending very soon. Another way they try to fight Muslims and, you know, the believers, they say, why do you want to pray? I told you, we have to hang on to your prayer, because the only thing that separates us Muslims from others is the prayer. Allah says, إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر. الصلاة, it should forbid you from committing sins and evil deeds. Okay, if you see yourself praying and you're still committing a lot of sins, that means there's something wrong with your prayer. You need to review it and go back and check it. Okay. Also, another thing is fasting. I get some people, a lot of people, they even at work, they just give a lot of comments, good comments about fasting. They say, we respect you, we respect your religion. And some people, they say, look, this is, you are living in a modernized world now. You're living in the 21st century. Seriously, you want to fast from the sunrise to sunset? Why? What's the point? I can feel for the poor. I can help them with money. I don't have to do it myself. They forget about, the fasting is actually ibadah, worship. It's a form of worship. Anyway, we can't go through this. One more thing, and we'll end tonight, inshallah, is about eating halal food. How many people of you, when you go together, you receive peer pressure from your friends with school or work, and you go out to have lunch or something, and they say, oh, sorry, I can't eat because I need halal food, I can't eat that. And they start mocking you. Say, halal, what's halal? What's that? Come on, man, I eat everything. Everything you eat, it doesn't make you najis. They say, the najis thing, it's only when you say bad words, okay, vulgar words, the language, that's what makes you najis. They try to argue with you, even eating halal. And Allah says in the Quran, وَإِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ لَيُوحُونَ إِلَىٰ أَوْلِيَائِهِمْ لِيُجَادِلُوكُمْ. Those shayateen, satans, those devils, they inspire their friends and allies, يُجَادِلُوكُمْ, to dispute with you, okay? To start discussing with you and argue, why you do this, why you do that, this is wrong. He says, وَإِنْ أَطَعْتُمُوهُمْ إِنَّكُمْ لَمُشْرِكُونَ. If you obey them, if you follow them, you are mushrik, he says. So it's very strong, okay? So we have to, the only way to stay strong in our faith is to have knowledge and follow the path of Ahlul Bayt, path of sacrifice, similar to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, where he sacrificed everything that he had in order to keep Islam the way it is pure. He died for one thing, he said, أن أأمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر, is to forbid evil and enjoin good. And that's one of the ways to do it publicly. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.